Thanks a lot, Coach. Appreciate you having me on. Huge fan of the football office. Big believer in it. Love the networking ability and love being a part of it. My name is Zach Bigelow. I'm the defensive GA at the University of Tulsa. Here today to talk to you about my favorite pass concept. That's a levels concept. I know it might sound a little strange to you, a defensive GA talking about an offensive pass play. This will be my third year as a Division I GA. Previously at the University of Northern Colorado. This will be my second year at the University of Tulsa. Thing is, I'm an offensive coach. That's my passion. But we had an opportunity in my third year to move over to the defensive side. Wanted to have a chance to spend a year on the different side of the ball, see how the opponent thinks, what defenses are trying to do to stop an offense, what they're looking for tendency-wise. And that was a great opportunity to coach offensive players for the offensive scout team. So I thought it was a great opportunity to expand myself as a coach, and expand my knowledge, and make myself more marketable for my career. So like I said, today we're going to talk about the levels concept. My talk today is kind of inspired by the football office. Posted this yesterday when people were talking about what they liked about the football office. You know, I think this is a site for men who want to change the game. It's the next group of guys that are going to take over football. It's people who are sick of hearing, this is the way we've done it because that's the way we've always done it. Or when you ask a question, they say, well, refer back to 1995. So what I did is, we didn't run this play at the University of Tulsa last year. We did 2 years ago at the University of Northern Colorado. And I like the play, the levels concept. And last year, one of our other offensive GAs, Brady Walls, he was at Jenks High School in Oklahoma. He's returned there now. Him and I had a great relationship together. You know, we really loved staying up late, watching film of different guys, expanding our knowledge, talking ball. And what we've done a lot is, he had already done extensive studying of the play and of the concept and what people were doing, the different teaching techniques of it. And together we've continued to build the language and the reads and how we teach it. And when you look at this play, it's what Nick Saban says is the toughest concept to defend, levels. And Chris Brown at Smart Football did a great job. He wrote an article about this. It's Peyton Manning's favorite concept to throw. And when you talk about one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, it's his favorite concept. And one of the best defensive minds in college football, it's his toughest concept to defend. And then you see that June Jones has been running it at Hawaii and SMU. Dana's had it at Houston, Oklahoma State, and West Virginia. Cliff had it last year at Houston, and Monken continued to run at Oklahoma State after Dana. You're talking about the most explosive offenses in college football that are all running this as a base play that they'll run multiple times in a game. And that's why I love it. It's a base play with simple answers. It's a universal beater. I love it against all coverages, but when I drop a play, I'm really trying to solve against defenses' bases today, which I believe is, for the most part, still an over front against that pattern reading cover 4 where you're cornering your safety, have their eyes on number 2, and their reactions, the looks they're going to give you are going to depend on the routes that you run. And Coach Brady Walls said this, and I think it's a great thing. Defenses are going to use pattern reading coverages. We're going to use coverage matching concepts, coverage matching routes. And what I mean for that is, we're going to run routes and concepts that are based off of what you do on defense and with your coverage. And I'm not trying to be so specific and so detailed with my quarterback that I make it complicated that this is the read versus cover 1, this is the read versus cover 2. What I'm saying, and you'll see it later on, is I'm trying to give my players tools to react to what the defense is doing so they're always having success. I'm giving them things to do to play fast, not think, and succeed. It's a great base play. You got to rep it over and over and over again to do that. I'm not a big system believer. I believe you start with your base plays, the things you believe in most, and you build your offense and fit it around there. Stay committed to what you want to do because that's how you become great at it. A big part of that is the seam read. It's a big part of our base offense. It's something that is in the levels concept. It's also the inside receivers routes and 4 verticals. It's in a couple other concepts. So this is a route that it may look difficult and it may be confusing at first and say, wow, do you really think kids can get this good at recognizing defenses running it? Well, I'm repping it in multiple concepts. I'm practicing it a number of times over games. This is a route I want to get great at. So here we go. Here's our basics levels concept I'm talking about. It's on the left side here. You've got a basic 2x2 segment passing concept. So I called levels to the left side, and I've just got the basic 4 vertical call on the right. I'm swinging the back. He's check releasing. He's in the protection. What we're going to do is number 2 is going to run the seam read. He's going to get to 10 yards, and he's going to stare down his capped defender and make his route. So he's either going to run a seam. He may bend it inside, depending on where the safety is, or he's going to run a dig and settle up in one of the zones. Your number 1 receiver, I've got him labeled as Z. He's going to run a 5-yard in route. And then depending on what the wall defender does, who I've labeled as the S, the Sam linebacker there, he will pivot back out, because always we want our guys running to grass. Get open, don't overthink it, make sure you're open, don't run so you get covered. The quarterback then is going to read the wall defender. He's looking at the Sam. Number 1 in the read is the seam read. Number 2 is the fin. He's going to take the snap, take a 3-step drop. He's looking to see if the wall defender is walling hard or if he's come off on the fin. If he's walling hard, he'll hitch up, throw the fin right now. The wideout will catch it at 5 yards. He'll cut up field and try and make a big play. If the wall defender comes off of my seam read quickly, the quarterback is going to either throw the seam on time on his 3rd step, or if he's capped and has to run a dig, he'll hitch up, find the dig window, and make the throw. In our 3-by-1 concept, you want to start off with, I'm a big believer in, if the backside safety to a 3-by-1 is going to trace over, if he's going to cheat over to the 3 receiver side to give the defense a number advantage, you got to run an isolation route with your X, make him pay. That guy's got to be your GoDaddy. That's the guy you're expecting to win all your one-on-one matchups. So you start there, you can run anything on the backside. Then to the front side, now we've got a 3-man levels concept. Your W is running your seam read. He's still the number 1 read. His wall defender is the Mike now. I would expect another linebacker to be sitting between the Sam and the Will, or the S receiver and the W receiver, excuse me. Your Mike is going to be your read. He's your wall defender, and we're reading out the same way. Get your eyes on the wall defender. If he walls hard, take it to the fin. In this case, that'd be the S receiver. He's labeled as number 2. If number 2 isn't there, because the Sam's sitting in, then you go to your 3rd fin. That's your 3rd read. If, from the beginning, the Mike didn't wall hard enough, get your read on the cap defender, hit the seam with no hitch. If you've got a cap defender, hitch up, find the dig window, make the throw. So seam read, this is what we're talking about, capped or uncapped. This is what I think is the beauty of teaching this play. I know a lot of people run levels, but what Coach Walls and I have studied and what we've put into teaching in time is this is how we want to teach the route to get the most out of this concept. Instead of just running a dig, we want to run a seam read here. And when we run a seam read, we're talking about capped or uncapped. We're trying to get this guy open. So when I say capped, I'm talking to the receiver in the inside. I'm saying you're capped if there's a defender on top of your route stem at a depth greater than 8 yards. So if you're capped, you're going to run a dig, can settle in the window. If you're uncapped, that means there's no defender over your route stem. You're going to run the seam or a bender. You look for the ball as soon as you clear the wall defender. So here we're going to get a look at this so this makes more sense. If I'm talking about a capped route, probably for this inside receiver, if you could think about it in a 2-by-2, that's the strong safety. He's sitting over here on the number 2 receiver at a depth more than 8 yards. So in a soft cap, you could get him at 10 and he could pedal out like cover 4 or cover 2. He could be in a hard cap, more of a cover 4 look or progression reading, and he's kind of in a slow back pedal then. In the soft cap, our guy can just settle up if he's wide open. If not, we're just going to expect him to run the dig and the quarterback's going to throw him open. This is kind of the more advanced stage of the route, and this is not something I would be overcritical about, which I think is important in coaching this. Right here, the look is the receiver is capped. There's a strong safety sitting over me at 10 yards. But if I've got a guy who's been in the system for multiple years, he's on the same page with the quarterback, if I get a strong safety that's sitting here flat-footed staring me down, maybe he's trying to catch technique me, just trying to jam me, and you'll see a clip of this later on, I just want the guy to blow by him. If he's giving me the deep route, get over the top of him, the quarterback throws a home run, let's go celebrate in the end zone. But again, I'm not going to be overcritical of my wideout. The base rule is right here. If you have a cap at all, you run a dig. If he can get to a point where he recognizes I have soft cap, I'm dropping off, or if I have a flat-footed cap, I can blow by him, that's great. I at least want him running the dig, and then as we get more into the progression, we teach it, we rep it, the guys get better at it. When you talk about an uncapped look, here's some different things. Let's start off with a cover 2. Pre-snap, the strong safety is going to look capped because he's over top of me at 12 yards. But if he's going to get real wide and deep in his pedal, so maybe like a Tampa 2 look, then I'm uncapped. I've got open space. I've got open grass, so I want to own that area. I'm going to release vertical, and I might get a slight bend inside to get away from that strong safety. If I'm uncapped, we're looking at a cover 3 look here. Here's the strong safety again. Pre-snap, he's at 8 yards. He's on top of me. I look capped. When he comes rolling down to become a flat or a hook defender, I need to recognize that, see he's low. I'm going to best release him, and now I'm uncapped. I've got all of this room up the hash from 12 to 15 yards to work with. The free safety's rolling high to the deep third. We're staying away from him. Quarterback doesn't hitch up, throws the seam ball on time. Again, we've got a huge play on top of us. Finally, another uncapped look. You've got the strong safety. He comes down. He's playing man on you. He's playing low or aggressive or catching you. Just make him pay. Blow right by him. Stem him up. Get over the top of him. And the quarterback throws a good ball. But again, I'm being very, very, very easy on this route grading, and I'm telling my guys, don't think it. Get open. Respond to what the defense gives you. And I'm not going to be overcritical on what they do as long as they follow the rules. Important coaching technique before I go on to the film, when we're talking about how we run the seam read, the key is the cap defender. I went back to, in this uncapped look, and I'm going to look at cover 3, I talked about in the uncapped rules, as soon as you are past the wall defender and you're uncapped, we want you looking for the ball right now on the seam. The reason I bring that up in the coaching point you have to make is the eyes are on the cap defender. You have to see, keep your eyes on the guy on top of me, am I going to be capped or uncapped? Because most importantly, more than anything else, is to make sure we run the right route, make sure we're running the seam or the dig, depending on if we're capped. So the wide receiver is running the route with his eyes on the cap defender. He's going to have to feel the wall defender. He's got to feel that he's got his hands on him, he's walling, or he can feel the defender close in his route space. And so as soon as he clears that wall defender, I want my eyes on the quarterback now so we can have that seam route as an option as long as possible so that quarterback can throw it to me for whenever we're ready. And we'll talk about that more when I show you the clip of levels versus NCAA blitz or cover 3 with a fire zone. So here's your first look. This is the University of Houston versus us at the University of Tulsa last year. We've got a cover 4 look versus empty. Up top, you've got the 2 wide receivers who are going to run the levels concept. The inside guy's got the seam read. He'll make his decision at 10 yards. Your outside guy's got the 5-yard in. This is the defender on the hash, the number 11 for the University of Tulsa. He's our wall defender. He's who we're expecting to make our decision for our quarterback. He's who we'll base our read off of. And part of why I love this concept is I think this is a very easy read. Quarterback gets the snap. He's got his eyes on 11. 11 never puts his hands on the wideout. We don't have a very hard wall. He's buzzed off into the flats. He's looking for the fin. Quarterback knows right now, okay, the seam's mine. The inside receiver's got his eyes on the safety. He sees that he's capped. The safety's pedaling out. I'm going to run the dig at 10 yards. Turn my head around, speed cut it. Wide receiver finds me in an open window. This ball's thrown on time. It's beautifully thrown. Quarterback takes 3 steps. Would have loved to see him. Oh, he hitches up to see what the cap defender does. Hitches up to give the wide receiver a chance to run the dig. 1 hitch, ball, timing. 12, 15-yard game. We've got a first down. Same thing again. Empty look versus cover 4. This time you've got the levels concept down here in the bottom. Number 2 is running your seam read. Number 1's got your fin. We're staring at number 2, the linebacker on the hash. He's going to be our read wall defender. Again, he's quick to see the fin. He's jumping off. He's not carrying my seam read hard enough. He never gets his hands on the receiver. Quarterback should never come out of this route. The wide receiver's got his eyes on the defender. He sees he's capped. I've got tons of route space. I come over in my dig at 10 yards, speed cut it. Quarterback throws me open. And again, I love this against cover 4, this pattern reading stuff people are doing. Your safety and your corner are going to have their eyes on number 2. They have to keep dropping when number 2 is holding vertically. Even though number 1 releases inside, the corner has to keep dropping off because people are looking for that corner route. This is a great coverage that people have come up with to combat smash. So when the corner's dropping out, looking for the corner route by the wide receiver, the safety's still dropping because he sees number 2 vertical. He knows he has to stay on top of him. We've got a wide open dig window to take advantage of it. I know some people talk about swinging the back to the levels concept. I don't like it because then your Mike becomes your wall defender. You have to make sure your outside backer is staying true and playing sound defense and covering the flat route by the back. Why swing him over there? Let's make the read as simple as possible. Let's put 2 over 3, make them play extremely right to be correct. If not, we're going to get a 15-yard gain on our seam where we'll hit the fin with a chance to break it into a big play. Now we're going to run it out of a 3x1. Video's a little messed up here, excuse me. We're going to run it out of a 3x1 here. So we've got a 3x1 look. If you go onto the football office, this was the coverage I posted on yesterday when I was asking people suggestions to beat it. This is kind of a new 3x1 adjustment defenses are running. They've recognized that in a 3x1, the field throw to number 1 is a long throw. Not a lot of people are making it. So defenses have decided to play 10-on-10 football so they don't have to bring the backside safety over to help, so they can still stay sound and put a good cover 2 cloud on the X receiver, who in this case is Justin Blackman for Oklahoma State. That's usually a great wide receiver. So what they'll do now is they'll play your Sam linebacker on an outside shade of number 2. He's kind of the corner in pattern reading cover 4. The safety's got his eyes on 2. The Sam's got his eyes on 2. And now the Mike is playing as the wall defender here. And what they got to do is it's the same. I'm putting these same 2 defenders, the Sam and the safety, in the same binds I'm putting the corner and the safety in cover 4. They've both got to hold vertical with 2 vertical releasing routes. They've got to keep their eyes on number 2. Even though number 1, or in this case number 2, breaks in a 5-yard in, they have to hold for the corner route so the Sam in this case cannot drive on the 5-yard in, and your wall defender's put in a huge bind. So number 3's got the seam read. 1 and 2 have your 5-yard ins. Here we're looking at the Mike right in the middle of the field, the Arizona linebacker. Heavy wall, he completely turns his back to the quarterback. He's trying to stay on top of the seam read. The fin is wide open. It's an easy read. 1 hitch ball. We've got a ton of space for our playmaker. He takes it, makes 1 guy miss. We got a 17-yard gain, first down. Let's do it again. I talked about this earlier, and I know that they're going to throw the scat concept into the boundary, but I want you guys to pay attention to the 3x1 here. Your tight end is going to run the seam read. 1 and 2 have your 5-yard ins. Now, we talked about the tight end here running the seam read. His eyes should be on my cap defender. He should be feeling a wall defender. As soon as he clears the wall defender, we want him to be able to turn around and get his eyes on the quarterback if he's going to run a seam, so the quarterback has a chance to throw a seam at any time. So here, the safety is rolling down over number 2. Your Sam and Mike are coming on the NCAA blitz. Backside safety is going to the deep third. Look at the tight end here. He's releasing vertically. First couple of steps, he gets his eyes. There's no cap on me. I've got tons of space to run my seam route. The free safety is out of the way. The strong safety has rolled over number 2. Now that I feel the wall defender blitzing, the will hasn't gotten over top of me, I get my hand, he should be getting his eyes around the quarterback right now, and hopefully, if this is a concept we rep all the time, if we're comfortable with it, if we know the answers versus all the looks, look at if the quarterback would settle his feet right now and throw the seam. Tons of route space. Quarterback can get the ball to the tight end at the 15. He's got one man to beat. We might be celebrating the end zone. The tight end here runs a dig. I can't tell you for sure. The University of Oklahoma just might always put that on a dig. That's why I'd like it to be a seam read, because he doesn't have a capped defender. If we're not capped, why not just keep running vertically? Make this play as explosive and efficient as possible. Still, Oklahoma makes a big play there. Here it is. I have a 3x1 again against cover 42. So you've got cover 4 to the field, cover 2 to the boundary. We're looking at the trip side. Number 3 has the seam read. 2 and 1 are on the 5-yard ends. You're putting the Mike linebacker, a guy that doesn't work in coverage a lot, or as much as maybe your Sam, which is kind of a hybrid player now in today's game, or in the 4-2-5 defense with so many people passing. So you're working on a guy that's still a run player. You're putting him in the bind, making him make a decision. The Mike here, he doesn't get a hard wall, never puts his hands on number 3. The quarterback, all he has to do is hitch up. The wideout sees there's a safety over top of me and I'm capped. Wrap it around for the dig, make the throw right there. Beautiful. Again, this is a 3rd and 6 call here. We make a 15-yard completion and get upfield. It's first down again, driving inside enemy territory. Trips bullet, as it says up top. I love this. This is that motion that people have with the running back where they sprint them out to the sideline. People have a lot of plays off of it. The basic one is kind of just to throw the swing route. I love this. Swing the back to the field is what they're going to do. Kind of get the attention on the running back. The Mike's going to overplay it. We're giving ourselves just that much more of a window into the boundary for our 5-yard in and our seam read. So into the boundary, number 2's got your seam read. Number 1's got your 5-yard in. They've got Justin Blackman to the boundary, so the University of Tulsa is playing a cloud coverage to make sure they cover him. You're working on the will linebacker. He's the read. Again, he doesn't shuffle and carry the route. His wall's not very good. He comes off on the fin too early. The wideout sees that the safety's dropping. And this is a good example of cover 2. I would have been okay with him running a seam and bending it because the safety got so deep and widened up a little bit. But when you see right there when the wideout gets to 10 yards, the number 2 receiver, the safety is still kind of over the top of him, so it's just a really soft cap. I am totally okay with him running a dig right here. The quarterback sees what he's doing. He hitches up. The ball's delivered on time. Again, another 15-yard completion. It's 1st and goal on the 6-yard line. So again, as you guys can see, it's a very simple read. It's easy for your quarterback. You can rep it a lot. It's got a lot of answers, not in the fact that the quarterback and the wideout are going to have to be recognizing what the coverage is and see the whole picture of the field, but they can look at a very specific defender, get their reads, know what they're supposed to do to have success, and all of a sudden you've got a big play that goes for a lot of yards. I found 102 clips of this concept last year from all of our breakdowns. It had a 61% efficiency rating. And when I say efficiency rating, that's not just completion. That's a rating we come up with at the University of Tulsa that helps determine if a play is successful or not based upon the situation in which it was called. So, for example, if you call a play on 3rd and 12 and it only gets 8 yards, in our opinion, that's not efficient. So not only am I telling you this play out of 102 clips had a 61% efficiency rating, there's no telling how much higher that completion percentage was and how many yards it went for. But 61% of the time it was called, it did the job it was supposed to do for the football situation the offensive coordinator called it for. This is just another call we talk about when you have a base play, you want to protect it. So if teams start to overplay it, they don't play sound defenses, you can have answers. This is the University of Oklahoma 2 years ago in the Big 12 championship game. You're going to see the 3-by-1 concept with levels. So 3 as your seam read, 2 as your 5-yard in. That's Kenny Stills up top, one of their top wide receivers. He's actually going to run a 5-yard in and go. The University of Nebraska played a lot of man this game. They were heavy on the fin. Obviously, they knew this was a big concept for OU. This is a 3rd down call right here. And I love this. This is another way to protect your plays. Number 1 on the 5 yards, if the corner's going to drive on me, he puts on a little double move right here. The cornerback is on top of him. Kenny Stills makes a great route adjustment, but I'm just showing you this as an example of something else you could do. Still a big play for OU, and they score a touchdown there. And it says sometimes the D wins at the top. We're going to run the levels concept up top, and I want to show you that not everything's perfect, and I recognize that. This isn't the end-all of football conversations. But I want to show you up top when the defense wins, and then we'll kind of talk about why. So you've got the seam read by number 2 up top, the 5-yard in by number 1. Our quarterback's going to get his eyes on the wall defender, the linebacker right there in between the hash and the numbers. Again, I love this play with the bullet series. See how it pulls the Mike out of the box, gets his attention away from the boundary. We've got a no wall at all. The linebacker doesn't carry, doesn't get his hands on him. He goes straight to the fin, so our quarterback's eyes go on the seam read. Look at the safety here. Extremely flat-footed, isn't taking a very deep drop. The wideout's running his dig a little too he's rounding the route. He's running it a little too deep for my taste. The safety's there. He's able to drive on. This is an incomplete pass. There's 2 things I would have liked to see here. One, in a very advanced route, and again, I'm not going to grade my wideout critically for his decision. I might for the route. But I would have been okay here if the wideout would have been comfortable just taking this over the top. Kind of what I showed you, the hard cap. The safety's not dropping, not respecting what we're doing. This was a 3rd and 7 situation. I bet TCU had done a lot of film study, told their players. Coach Patterson does a great job of getting them ready. Hey, 3rd and 7 into the boundary. They love to run the levels concept. Safety, get your eyes on 2. If he releases vertically, don't drop too far because you're going to want to settle on that dig. Here, the safety does a great job of that. He's very flat-footed, though. Hopefully a press box call or an adjustment could have been made. to tell the wideout to just blow past him. Or another thing is, if they're going to play this aggressive for you, again, it's not very sound. They're not being very conservative over the top. Here's another situation where you could put this route on a double move. Tell your inside receiver running the seam read, get to 10 yards, chop his feet like he's going to the dig, and then take it over the top. That's kind of all I got for you guys today. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to stop by, listen to me talk about the levels concept. If you have any questions, anything you'd like to add to what I've done, please feel free to visit me on thefootballoffice.com. I know Coach is going to record this talk today, and he's going to put it up on the website. Feel free to watch it. If there's anything I can do for any of you guys, please don't hesitate to let me know. Love sharing knowledge with you guys and learning from you guys. Really appreciate everybody who's been participating in the football office. Best of luck this fall, guys. Take care.
Just want to talk to you guys this morning about some techniques that we've used over the years and that we use today at Oklahoma State. First thing I want to talk about is what I look for as a defensive back coach, what we look for at Oklahoma State as a defensive back, just the characteristics, some of the things that we feel are important. First thing is that the young man has to love football. Very important that you play defensive back in college football. There's a lot of commitment, a lot of time that takes place that you're not a normal student. So the first thing that we say the guy got to do is play defensive back. He got to love football. Next thing is he got to have great athletic ability. Mostly everybody today understands that it's an offensive game. So if you're going to be guarding some of the guys that play offense and that operate on the offensive side of the ball, you got to have a lot of athletic ability to be able to be successful as a defensive back. The next thing is he has to be a very competitive young man. He has to hate to lose. And when he hates to lose, he'll do everything that he can to win. Next thing is that as a coach, you have to trust him. His teammates have to trust him because his position is vital. Focus, making sure that he's doing everything that he can to be in the right place, to play the defense as called, to be sound. You have to be able to trust him. Next thing that goes kind of along with that trust is he has to be a communicator. Guys have to believe that he knows what to do. He has to be able to give them checks, keep everybody on the same page, so it's important that he's going to have to be able to communicate. Next thing is, and it's not the end-all be-all, but he has to have size for the position. Very important that a guy has the proper size for a defensive back as a corner or a safety to be able to operate in today's football. Then, especially at the safety position, but don't leave it out at the corner position, the guy has to have toughness about him. He has to be mentally tough as well as physically tough. Then he has to have speed. He has to be fast enough to be able to guard some of the quicker players on the field, and he has to be able to vertically defend pass routes. Finally, he has to be smart. Because of the, like I said earlier, because of the fact that he has to make checks, the fact that he has to keep everybody on the same page, it's important that this young man is smart, that he understands football, that he understands his position on the field, as well as other players on the field and their place within the defense. Now, our emphasis on defense at Oklahoma State, there's a few things that we talk about, and I'll just talk about 3 of them today. First thing is we want to make sure that we play hard. We're going to play with great effort. We're going to get off blocks, and we're going to have what I call fanatical effort to the football. It's an effort that when you see it on video, you know it. It stands out. That's the kind of effort that we want to leave the game every week with our opponents saying that they play with fanatical effort. Next thing is we want to play smart. We talked about it earlier when we talk about individuals, but as a defense, we want to play smart. We want to be students of the game. We understand that at the college level, There's a lot of pressure to win, a lot of physical demands, a lot of time constraints that go along with it. That our kids today, they're the Xbox generation. You got to be able to operate. They have to be able to operate with technology. So it gives us an opportunity as coaches to provide them with a lot of resources to be able to learn the game, learn the systems. But we expect our guys within that Xbox technological movement that they're in to be able to be coaches on the field. And the next thing, and really this is the final one that I'll talk about as far as our emphasis, is that we want them to play tough. We feel like that football is a man-on-man, a will-imposing game, and that's what we talk about here at Oklahoma State. Let's just get into some press man technique. First thing you'll see it flashing here on the screen is that as a coach, you must train aggression at all times. Now the first thing that I talk to you about is the stance. We want to make sure that the defensive back in press man has a square stance and that his feet are about shoulder width apart. But let me rewind just a little bit. We are in an aggressive posture. Everything that we show this defense, we show this receiver, that we show this quarterback is aggression. We're going to show him that by our movement, by our stance, by our body position, by our mannerisms, that we are really going to be aggressive. But as you see, as we go through it, there'll be some times where we are not. We are retreating, but we want to, before the ball snaps, show this guy that we're about to fight at the line of scrimmage. So our stance, we want to be about shoulder width apart, no wider. I've seen guys stagger their feet. I've seen guys square their feet. Most of the time, I'll start my training with squared feet. The next thing is our alignment. We want to make sure in our alignment that we squeeze the football. But like I said earlier, we're going to give the impression that we're about to fight at the line of scrimmage, but as we get into it, we're going to retreat a lot of times. So now what I want to do when I squeeze the alignment is I want to make sure that I'm tight to the receiver, but I'm not too tight so as I can't see. I can't react properly. If I'm too tight, I'm not going to be able to react properly. So I'm going to squeeze, but I don't want to get in a situation where when the receiver releases, he's into my face mask. I don't have enough room to react to him. Next thing is guys want to have their eyes all over the place. As you start into the movement, you want to make sure that your eyes are what I call on his leverage hip. There are times when people play press man with inside leverage. There are times when you train press man from outside leverage, and there are times when you play it from a head up position. What we want to do is we want to have our eyes on the belt loop of the leverage hip. If I'm playing it straight up, then I want to put my eyes directly on that belt buckle. Then the hands. I've seen many different things with the hands. I've trained different things with the hands. But the thing that I do today is I tell my guys, hey, we want to get our hands combat ready. What that means is there's some movements that we're going to have to take that we're going to have to punch this receiver. So what I want to do is I want to have my hands in a combat position. I don't want to have them hanging. I've seen a lot of guys in the higher levels of football, they're going to hang those hands. And the reason that I don't do that is because when it's time to move those hands, I'm going to lift them. So I like to have my hands in a combat position, combat ready, as if I'm a boxer. Now once this receiver makes a move, then I like to tell my defensive backs, okay, well, what I want to do is when he makes a move, I'm going to slow down and react to it. So if that receiver, let's just imagine here, I'm inside leverage, slightly inside leverage on the receiver. The ball is to my right as I'm aligned as a defensive back. Once the receiver releases, he's going to give me a great pounding. What I have to do is, just like I tell the defensive backs, is I'm going to slow down. Don't go for the fakes. Go for the break. So when he gives me the great pounding, I'm going to what I call shadow. I'm going to shadow release, meaning I'm going to slide. Some people call it inching. Some people call it give ground. I'm going to give ground grudgingly, trying to stay square in the shadow of this receiver, imagining that the sun is behind the receiver, and I'm going to be in that shadow, staying square as long as I can. Like I said, early on, we give the impression that we are going to be aggressive and fighting at the line of scrimmage, but once that receiver releases, now I'm going to give ground, staying square, and I'm going to read his and react to his release. Once the receiver now releases to my left, I'm aligned inside and to my right. He releases to my left. What I'm going to do is I'm going to punch that shoulder pad with the opposite hand. Some people call it an offhand jam. I like to say opposite hand. I'm going to punch the shoulder pad with the opposite hand, and I train the defensive back that his shoulder pad is the largest pad on his body, so we can control him if we punch to that shoulder pad. And we don't want to lunge. We don't want to be out of control. It's a punch just like a boxer would give. Once we punch this receiver, then we get to the next phase, because we have punched him and we have thrown off the timing, what we feel, thrown off the timing enough so that we can go to the next phase, which is the cutoff. We're going to open our hips to the receiver. We're not going to let that receiver come back across our face. So we're going to open our hips to him, forcing him one direction, which is outside and up the field. But now, the thing that I try to train the receiver is, hey, you're going to have to cut off the vertical line. You're going to have to do everything you can to cut off the vertical line. The image that I give them is that the receiver has a zip cord tied to his chest. And as that receiver has that zip cord tied to his chest, he's being pulled to the goal line. You, as a defensive back, if you want to be successful in defending the vertical route, you have to cut off this vertical line. You do that by getting your shoulders in front of the receiver, by getting your hand down low and disrupting his running pattern. Then, as you push down the field, we hear offensive coaches talk all the time about telling their receiver to lean, to leave the quarterback room to throw the ball, to throw it away from the defensive back. So we understand that as that receiver pushes down the field vertically, there'll come a point where he'll lean away from the defensive back. We teach the defensive back to compensate for this lean. You have to be ready for this lean, and you have to lean into the receiver. You have to seek contact to the receiver. Then you never look unless you are within handshaking distance. If you can shake the receiver's hands, then now you can look for the football. The place that you look is also very important. It's important that you don't look back to the quarterback, to the backfield. You take a quick peek for the ball in your area. No ball in your area. Ball up high, no ball up high in your area. You go right back to the receiver, because that's the best way to get beaten, is by looking back into the backfield. If you are out of position, if you are not in control of the receiver, then you never look back. You never look back. What you want to do at that time is you want to run to the receiver's hands. When we get into the red zone, about 20 to 30% of the time, we'll use all these techniques that we talked about. We'll use the press technique, and we'll get up in his face, and we'll retreat, and we'll do all those things, especially as we get around the 20
the 22, the 18-yard line, the 15-yard line. But when we get into the 12-yard line area, 12-yard line and in, what we want to try to do at that time is we want to try to use what we call the slant technique. And when we use the slant technique, it means basically the way it's named is that that defensive back is going to align in the slant of the receiver. When he aligns in the slant of the receiver, if the receiver runs the slant, that's going to be a terrible collision. Either we're going to come up with the football or the receiver is going to not play the next play. If the receiver runs a vertical route, what we tell the defensive back to do at that time is you're going to go and chest him up. We say face him up, chest him up, get your chest on his chest, because if the quarterback is throwing the fade to the receiver, this allows the defensive back to be able to see through to this throw. If the receiver releases vertically and puts his hips, drops his hips, puts his feet in the ground, and drives back as a fade stop, we're going to run through the fade stop. I try to train my guys that it's almost like a tackle. I'm going to step on his toes. I'm going to be very aggressive. I'm not going to be over the top of the fade stop. I'm going to be through it and underneath it, if anything at all. If the receiver runs a fade, just like I said earlier, it gives the defensive back an opportunity to see through, to play through the receiver for the football. Now, I talked about the shadow technique a little bit earlier, and what the shadow technique does, or what the shadow technique allows the defensive back to do, is it allows me to work on my proper feet, gives me an opportunity to stay square, and then it gives me a base so that I'll be able to strike, know how to strike with my opposite hand on that receiver. What I do when I use this drill, it's called a shadow drill, of course. When I use this drill, I'll get step over dummies. I'll get 4 of them, and I'll get my guys at the top of the step over pad. I'll give them a ready break. They'll shadow, meaning giving ground grudgingly, meaning slide. Some people call it slide. Some people call it inching, but it's not a back pedal. Younger defensive backs, they want to back pedal, they want to lift those feet. We are grazing across the grass, giving ground grudgingly, because I want to be in a position so that if I had to strike back forward at any time, I could. So that's the shadow drill. With those 4 pads, I'll have a guy go pad 1, he'll reset on pad 2, he'll shadow on pad 2. He'll go up to the top of pad 3, he'll reset, he'll shadow on, and most of the times I'll let them go on their own. The first guy will go, the second guy will go once this first guy gets to pad number 2. So we'll go 4 times shadow, because of the fact that when we use this technique out on the field, most of the time the receiver will get into his route pretty quickly. So I think the length of this step over pad gives us the opportunity to shadow in a realistic time frame, just like we would on the field. Staying square, having those hands ready, making sure that we're not backpedaling, very important in this drill. The next drill that we use is a drill we call the high point with a partner. And what I'm trying to do is, we talked about cutting off the vertical route. We talked about leaning on the receiver. So what I'll do is I'll take 2 guys. I'll take a defensive back and I'll take a partner. And all we do is we go through all those techniques that we talked about earlier. And then at the end of the drill, what I'll do, and we don't go 30, 40 yards down the field. We'll go 10 yards down the field. But what I'll do is I'll throw the ball up high. And what I want that defensive back do, the player who is acting as the defensive back, he's going to wheel around using his techniques. He's going to cut off. He's going to lean. But now when it's time to go up, we want him to go up and jump. The guy who is acting as the receiver, what we want him to do is, as the defensive back goes up to play the football, we want him to push. We want him to prohibit. We want him to pull down. Now, what we have to do is we have to make sure that the receiver understands this is the defensive back's drill, so it's only going to be a slight tug. It's only going to be a slight pull. It's only going to be a slight push. But we're just getting this defensive back accustomed to having a little bit of a conflict when he goes up to get the football. The next drill, and my final drill, is what we call the point of attack passing drill. Very important as defensive backs that you work and see the drills that you see every day. See the routes that you're going to see during the week. Most of the time what we align our guys is we'll align field corners and boundary corners, field safeties and boundary safeties. So when we're aligned in this configuration, we understand that the field corner, he's going to see routes that the boundary corner will hardly ever see. The field safety, he'll defend routes and route concepts that the boundary safety will not necessarily have to defend. So what we do is we divide our defense in such a way that we can show them as coaches the routes, as you see on the screen, we can show them the routes that they see in a given week or that they'll see at certain times during the game. The groups will divide and they'll work independently. Now, old school name for this is half line, but when we worked half line, you had left side go, right side go, left side go, right side go, left side go, right side go, and on and on. While we did the drill in this fashion, we got fewer reps. When we divided the groups independently, and if you notice on the screen, we had the mic. He's always the odd man out. We had two mics. We had a mic go with each drill, and as we divided these groups and made them independent groups, we saw that we ended up being able to get many, many more reps. So it's a drill that I like to pass on to you. And with that, appreciate you guys' time. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Go Football Office.